procedure which is set up here. I'm just trying to find out, get an understanding.
Yeah.
What at the end, what would be a good achievement versus a failed achievement.
Yes, and I appreciate your bringing it up because I want to make sure people are really getting that. I think you're getting to the heart of this, really. You know, why would we do this? Why do we want to spend time doing this? I think you're trying to get at that and make sure it's clear. So I do want to make sure it's clear. And so, again, I think there are two pieces for me. One is the atmosphere, creating an atmosphere where we feel welcome and safe to talk. And the other that goes along with it is that our goal is deepening understanding. Deepening understanding of our differences rather than feeling a need that I have to convince people to change how they think. Is that?
So can I make just one other comment?
Yeah.
I think the objective of trying to improve relationships on subjects, including the subject of Israel, where people have sharp differences in viewpoints, is a worthy objective. But I don't think, I think if what you want to do is to affect people's attitudes, it's not just sort of having a better understanding in a social context of the way other people feel about things. It's getting educated. And if you want to change your own views, or if you want to challenge your own views about a controversial problem, then you got to get educated. And it's not as if people here don't know a lot, and aren't here because they're interested in Israelite, I presume. But to a certain extent, if we're not getting new education by different viewpoints, educated viewpoints on particular issues, we're really not advancing anything other than to get along part. So I really am asking is what assets are going to be brought into this process besides all of us exchanging views and coming to understand each other better to achieve, to me, the much more important goal of is getting self-educated on particular issues so that you're open to ways in which your perception of things might change for the better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that comment. So just to repeat, I just want to repeat it so that everybody make sure everybody heard it, and for the video people here, and then I'll take your comment. So what Harvey is saying is that he feels it's important that people really get educated, so that understanding each other and getting along with each other is not as important as really getting educated and learning, so that's the thing that's going to make the difference if you really want to have the best possible attitude and approach to an issue is to have yourself get educated. So thank you for bringing that up. And so that isn't the main priority of this. And so I'm not going to disagree with your suggestion that getting educated is really important. I think a different kind of education might come from this process if I understand where people are coming from. I think that I think I will get educated some, not so much about facts, but educated about how people come to their different positions, and I think that's an important one piece. But yes, I think there are other opportunities for people to get educated. That is not the main goal of this particular project. So that's a good clarification.
So on the same subject, there's so much polarization, whether it's political parties here or Israel or about Israel, and there's so much media that is polarized, and people tend to read, there's a formal name for this, I don't know the name of it, but political sociologists, but they reinforce their own views by reading the same things over and over again. And it just drives, it doesn't facilitate understanding, it drives people apart more and more. And The part that Harvey's talking about education, if we had a discussion about another subject in Israel, let's say that we were going to talk about, I don't know, how nuclear physics affects everyday life, you'd want to have a physicist, a couple of physicists there. Because we could sit around all day about our opinions and our feelings about that, but we wouldn't even know what the hell we're talking about, to be blunt. And I think that what's missing from this, I think, is either a reading list or some educational factor so that we raise the level of the discussion where people are knowledgeable about the subjects they're talking about. I don't know how to do that, and whether you have a reading list, and maybe after you know what people are concerned about, you could develop maybe a feedback loop after the first session. You find out that certain subjects are, well, you mentioned the case of the ultra-Orthodox controlling thing. Well, you might find reading an article, a very good article, that's taking that position, that's very concerned about it, and wants to make change, and you may find one that's saying, it's not as bad as you think, the other side of that coin. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that somewhere, from what I think, and I may be all wrong about this, I think the level of knowledge just from reading newspapers and looking at TV is extremely low among the average person in America. Maybe Jewish people and people in Luna have a higher level, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. And somehow, if we don't have reading lists or have some third-party qualified people's opinions to talk about, we're not going to learn from the situation.
Okay, so thank you. So this was a comment basically saying that, again, similar to Harvey, a concern that really what's needed is opportunities to learn more and to share with each other sources of information and education so that we can increase our level of knowledge. There's a concern that people don't have enough knowledge, and also that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I appreciate the concern you're raising. And again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
How do you change your views without additional information?
Yeah, I hear you. So I hear the concern. I am not disagreeing with the concern that people have about having more knowledge and information. And there might be ways that people want to share, what are their sources of knowledge and information with each other. But that is not the main purpose of this conversation and this dialogue. So I just want to acknowledge that. I mean, that may be a legitimate concern that some people have, that they're more interested in learning something rather than having a real conversation. Leon.
I feel I understand your goal very, very well, because I had an experience in my life that relates to it. I had a colleague for over 30 years who was Israeli born but settled here. His views on the world, on the Middle East, on the Israel-Palestinian question were totally opposite to mine. Totally opposite to mine. However, we never at any time when we had hard feelings for each other, we had to police. He's very ill right now. The point is this. What I learned from this experience, from knowing him, was that his attitude towards the conflict was based upon a certain philosophy of the world, a philosophy of life, a philosophy of the way people interact that's very different than mine. And I totally respected his philosophy, even though it wasn't the same as mine. And for me, this meeting has to do with that. To learn, when you use your phrases, where does the person come from? Because one can never be adequately educated about this complex problem. Whatever anyone else says, I'll come up with something else. go on absolutely forever. So I don't think one's going to have an absolute understanding about this kind of stuff. So the focus is on understanding that the human being is standing right next to you has a different viewpoint, but it's based upon an attitude towards life. How much do you trust other people, for example, is a very important thing. My friend doesn't trust anything. He doesn't take chances. I feel the need for chances. What does that have to do with this conflict? It can be applied, but that's the thing, kind of thing. I want to know how much you trust other people. How much are you willing to take a chance on agreements? That's the point.
Okay, thank you very much, Leon. So Leon is bringing up a different perspective, which is that based on a personal experience, he had a colleague for many, many years who had an opposite point of view about Israel, totally opposite, and yet they were able to, running out of time? Okay. They were able to have a conversation without hard feelings. They were able to maintain a friendship and good feelings. And what Leon learned from that is that what was at the heart of some of their differences was a different philosophy on life, a different approach to life, different attitudes towards life. And it wasn't so much getting at different knowledge base of the situation, but it was more like what is it in their life led them to take a certain approach to life. You know, whether it was being, how trusting are you of other people? How willing are you to take chances and take risks in life? And so things like that can make a difference in your views, sometimes more than information. Because basically the point he's making is that there's so much to learn about Israel that in some ways you never have enough information. There's always more. And so he's suggesting that getting at people's philosophy and attitudes and values might be very useful, and that's what we're aiming at in this conversation. Mark.
I just wanted to practice the succinctness goal. 2 points. One, I think the process itself is very worthwhile. It will help us not only with this, but with all sorts of other situations, including situations where you want to influence someone's opinion. I think you can get more with sugar than with a hammer. And the second, I think it's going to be worthwhile to crystallize what my opinions are about many of these things. I mean, I don't take a lot of time trying to argue with people about Israel, and I don't have a real strong, I have gut feelings, and I have things that I know and things that I feel, but I haven't articulated them too often, so this is the opportunity for that.
Okay, thank you. So Mark is saying that he feels the process will be useful and may be useful in terms of the future, because he's saying that he thinks even if you are having a conversation with people who you would like to change their mind, approaching them from using sugar rather than a hammer is going to work better. And he's also looking forward to the process helping him clarify his own thoughts and feelings. Joelle and then Paul?
I see this process as a precursor to the informational kind of discussion, because I think without this process first, we will not be listening and hearing each other in an informational, and we'll just be more combative. So I see it as a multi-step process. One needs to be able to learn to listen and crystallize one's feelings before, and because, as I said, you can always bring in, there's always more information you can bring in,
Okay.
but that's how I view it. Not the end all, but the beginning.
Okay, thank you, Joelle. So Joelle is saying that she sees this as a precursor to another process of learning, that first you have to be able to listen to each other, and if you can't listen to each other, then you're not going to be good at taking in new information or education. Thank you. Paul?
I think just going back to the abortion dialogue, that I think one of the effects of that was that a lot of people came out realizing that they had a lot in common with people that they saw as being entirely on the other side, and activists on the two sides wound up cooperating on issues like stopping the violence in clinics, at making sure that pregnant young women had options if they wanted them, social and economic support, and so on, that they weren't being coerced by boyfriends. And, you know, maybe some of that can come out here, where people who still maybe disagree about one state versus two state solution, at least agree about some things that should change in behaviors of their various parts, and maybe ways that we can encourage that.
Right. Okay, so Paul is suggesting that part of this process could be that even if we disagree strongly on some things, we might find that there are some things that we have in common with each other, and that finding those things in common could lead us to actually work together on the things that we do have in common that would be of benefit. Okay, thank you. Israel?
How do you manage all the groups at the end?
I'm sorry, I didn't
You
hear.
have them all into one group, so we have 5 groups here. How do you manage all the discussion to something that comes to all of us?
So what happens when bringing small groups back into a large group, or we each learn in our small group and...
Okay, yeah, so the plan is to stay in small groups, not to bring everybody back into a large group.
Do the groups stay the same?
Yes, so you stay together with your small group, and then if you're able to come both weeks, then you meet again with the same group. And so the idea is that you've gotten to a certain level in the conversation, and then you can go deeper. The next time you meet together, you go even deeper with each other, trying to understand each other better. You had a question, Nina?
Well, I'm very interested in what Leon has to say, but I think that we're talking about 2 different things. He brought up the whole question of trust of individuals, but we're talking about Israel and nations, and I'm not sure that the same approach, the same values hold. I'm not sure that a nation and a country can afford, for example, to do what it has to do, or to live as it has to live, by using trust as an example of relationship. And we're talking about Israel. We're not talking about individuals here. I mean, the whole point is to talk about Israel. We're talking about individuals as a number.
Yeah, okay, so you're thank you.
You can't afford this
Yeah.
wonderful feeling of being able to trust when it deals with the problems that it has.
Yes, okay, thank you for your comment. And this was a comment from Nina about nations are different from individuals, and they might not be able to respond in the same way that individuals can. Okay, so we're running out of time, and so I just want to get on a little bit with the handout. So we're just, there's a couple more pieces we need to cover. So one is the expectation on the other side, expectations of participants. So the expectation is that you maintain your commitment to a respectful conversation and the goal of deepening understanding, that you keep the guidelines and respect the directions of the facilitator of your group. Now it says attend both dialogue sessions, and we're changing that, so you can come just for one, but we would like you to stay for the whole time. So, if you have to leave early, then that would be kind of disruptive to the process of the dialogue, so we'd like you to be there for the whole day, that day, that time. It's like 9:45 to 12. We'd want you to be there for that whole amount of time. So then we list the guidelines. And so these are the guidelines that we're going to be asking you to agree to. Listen and speak with respect. Do not interrupt other people. It's okay to pass. So like if you're not ready to answer a question, you can pass and then we'll come back to you. Confidentiality, so we're asking people to only, like if you're talking afterwards about what was talked about, that you don't share what other people talked about. You can share what you talked about, you can share in general terms, you know, what the questions were, but you don't share personal things that other people have shared. That we all share airtime, so we're sensitive to wanting to make time for other people so we don't talk too long. We contain our strong reactivity, try to understand why I'm feeling so strongly, and then when I can talk about it calmly, it's fine to talk about it, but just not talk in a reactive way. That we speak for ourselves, not as a member of a group. So I'm giving you my personal opinion or feelings rather than, you know, I feel like I can talk for a whole big group of people. We're going to hold back any expressions of judgment of other people. We're not going to try to convince each other. While this is happening, you don't have side conversations. Everybody listens to whoever's talking. And we try to check out assumptions before we react to them. So any questions about the guidelines? Yeah?
What does that mean, checking out assumptions? You mean trying to internally decide what are my assumptions before speaking? Or try to, if somebody verbalizes an assumption, try to fact check that? What do you
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. So the question is, what do we mean by checking out assumptions? So what I mean is that if I think I'm making an assumption about you, I want to try to turn it into a question rather than I think I know where you're coming from, but I'll turn my assumption into a question that I can ask you and then find out is that really what you think or feel? So that's what I mean. Any other questions? Okay. So we are coming to the end. So let me just, before we come to an end, any last questions? Yeah.
So I take you're going to be one of the facilitators. Have you found enough facilitators to run 4 or 5 groups?
I believe we have enough, yes. We have at least 5 people. So, and if we need more, then I'm confident we'll have a couple more. Yeah. Yeah, Ruth.
What approach are you going to take to assembling the groups? Is it
How are we going to get
random
people?
approach, or are you kind of looking at what people write on their forms and trying to get balanced, or, sort of varied?
Right, okay.
With age group?
Yeah. So the question is, how are we going to form people into groups? Is it going to be random? Are we going to give some thought to it? So probably some combination of those two. We haven't worked that out completely, how we're going to get people into groups, but we would like to have, each group have some diversity, different points of view. But we're not, some of that is going to be chance. Okay, so again, on this handout is the dates and the times. You have.
Typo on the time.
I'm sorry?
Typo on the time. It's 7:45 p.m. to.
Oh, okay. So it's 9:45 to 12. There's a questionnaire that we ask you to fill out if you're going to be joining us. So please, if you know you're going to join us, please fill that out. We're asking people to also RSVP in some way. So if you give us this is your RSVP. But if you don't hand this in today, it's actually going to be online. Also, we're going to have this video online for people who couldn't make it today, and so you'll be able to RSVP through an email. Yael, do you want to say anything before we end? Okay. So thank you so much for your questions, for your comments. I think you added a great deal. Everybody who brought up a concern, a question, a comment, I think you added a great deal to understanding this process. Thank you for being here today, and I hope you will join us on March 13th or April 3rd.
And I just want to say that I think that we owe Paul a lot of yashikoa, because I think Paul really demonstrated exactly what we're hoping will happen in the conversation. So the way that he responded to questions is, I think that's what we're looking for, is to acknowledge, to hear, and to respond. So I want to thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much for being here.